Welcome everyone to the June Wake Audubon meeting. It's another warm night. It's gonna get warmer. We got 3 more days of like heat index, upper 90s, crazy. I've got a few announcements, and then if anybody has any of their own, let me know. I'm gonna have to read off my phone. If you don't know, I'm John Gerwin, so I'm on the board. We have some other board members here. You want to raise your hand? We have Dave and Eric and Louise are here. If you want to be on the board, let us know. We're always looking for a few more. We're pretty friendly. Colleen Bocano used to be on the board. She is over at the town of Garner at the White Deer Park Nature Center. They are having a plant swap. It's a native plant swap on June 20th from 1 to 2:30. There are details on the, she said on the meetup, I presume that means the Wake Audubon meetup site. There's a link where they ask folks to register and with the town of Garner. You can reach out to Colleen as well. Her work email is on the meetup site as well.
Been the last 2 years.
Okay.
And it is, it's great. You just walk around from table to table and talk about what this person has, what that person has, and there are always more plants than that get taken. And so it's really fun. You're around your people. If you're a native plant person, around your people. It's fun.
And it's basically across from Lake Benson, or what? Or no, yeah. So, yeah, it's a nice little spot.
Actually, inside. It's in their community center thing.
Okay. On June 27, will be the Raleigh Pride event, and Wake Audubon participates in it. Rick LaRose has been heading it up with a small committee of folks and volunteers. They're always looking for more volunteers if you want to help. Otherwise, encourage people to come out and say hello. It will be downtown Raleigh from 12 p.m. until 7 p.m. I've got a sheet of paper up here with a QR code. You can scan the QR code to get more info or to sign up if you want. And there will be Wake Audubon. So we have a table there. So we have a few folks that will be there. There'll be bird-friendly initiatives. There are a variety of free public programs for the event. You can just chat with people and spread the love of birds. Everybody, has a bird story, and birds bring people together. So this is the big annual festival now. It's a big family-friendly street festival to celebrate the LGBTQ plus community and other allies. And again, if you want to come out and just talk to people about birds, this is a great one to do it at. We've been involved now for a number of years, and it's gone really well for everyone. Again, with the QR code, some information, and we might put something in the chat. I think Royce was going to try to list something in the Zoom chat as well. We hosted the Audubon chapters. We hosted the Advocacy Day. Recently, it was June 3rd, and this has been and here comes our advocacy chairwoman. She's been running this now for the last few years, and it was another really successful event. So the chapter, most of the chapters will send reps, and we meet here in this room, and then branch out over to the General Assembly, talk to our legislators about issues that we're interested in, which of course is birds and nature and conservation. It was another big success. So there were more than 40 Audubon members from the various chapters across the state, and they met with over 50 lawmakers. It was pretty cool. About a third of those attending were Wake Audubon members, so we had another great turnout. Half the meetings were with our own local Wake legislators from Wake, Franklin, Johnson, Harnett counties. And so just to point out too, National Audubon has asked us to take on additional counties. We're we're not just Wake anymore. And we're even working in Nash County now. They're getting more and more sign-ups, and there's not the nearest chapter from, to the east of us is Wilmington. So they asked us to fill in, and so we've agreed to take on these people who are in these other counties. And that's why you'll hear us referred to Wake, Franklin, Johnson, Harnett, and now Nash County. Anyway, it's another event. So we do it each year. It's either late May or early June. So just keep an eye on our newsletter and on the website and such if you ever want to participate. It's a really nice way to go meet with your legislators. And then the purple martins, they are still being purple martins. We had a slow start this spring when all that rain came in May. We wanted the rain. The purple martins don't like it. It's cloudy. A lot of those birds abandoned their first nest, but they re-nested. Right now, we have some held on. So we have some babies that are ready to band. I'm actually going to do it tomorrow and Thursday. Tomorrow at the University Club over on Hillsborough next to the vet school from 9:30 to around 11. And then Thursday morning at Yates Mill Pond from 9 to 10, anyone can come out and watch. And then I just got a note from Courtney, and she said, well, that group that re-nested, they're going to be ready next week, Monday, 80 more babies at the University Club and about 75 at Yates Mill Pond. So we have a lot of baby martins to band. And so if you want to come out either morning, any of those 4 mornings, just come on out and you can handle a baby purple martin if you want, or just talk to us about the biology of the bird. Pretty cool. And then we will still plan to have our Uwharries field trip on this Saturday. Kira and Grace and I will go out really early and open up some mist nests just to try and harass a few birds from 7 to 9, but then we'll have time from 9 to 11:30 or so. There are a lot of milkweed and other flower blooming right near the house that's on the property, so right near the driveway. So it's going to be warm, but we don't have to walk too far to see a lot of flowering plants and a lot of the associated insects. We will then go over to the zoo where we have access to picnic grounds, have lunch, and then Grace is doing some of her pollinator survey work at a native plant garden that is alongside the picnic ground, so we can wind up over there. And finally, we are, again, always on the lookout for help. If you want to be on a committee, or if you want, you can be on the board, but you don't have to be on the board to help out. You can be on one of the committees. So we have things like advocacy, conservation, Ann just helped me find someone who's going to help with the treasury stuff, which is great. Thank you, Ann. Communications, we need help with that, getting the way we do our things like the e-newsletter or the Instagram, Facebook. If you're interested in any of that, talk to one of us. We'll get in charge of the right person. In fact, how many of you have ever said, if I were in charge, things would be different? Well, this is your chance, because we still need a president. So if you want to be in charge and make things different, this is your chance. Eric and Dave are co-chairing, but they're both past presidents. And so, if you maybe you don't want to start off that way, but you can start on the board and see how things go and work your way up the ladder. So with that, I think I'm finished. Then we have the.
Yeah. So if it's anybody here's first time attending and you're not already a member of Audubon, I'm going to do it with your first meeting. If you would like to join Wake Audubon, and it's also national. We pay for the first year for free.
Louise is reminding folks that if you're a new member and you're not if you're not a member of Audubon, you're new tonight, we'll pay for the first year of membership if you're interested. You just have to send us an email and let us know. We have a form here, but you just let us know. I'm letting the folks online know. Does anybody else have anything they want to report? I don't see anybody else wanting to report anything. let me, we're gonna try to get started here. Let me see if this works.
Yeah.
You mentioned the committee, is there somewhere on the website that talks about what committees Waco Society has or anything like that?
There was, the question is whether there's, a place on the website where our committees are. We had once revamped the descriptions of things, and I think Dave can probably look right now and double check. At one point, we were trying to put a little description of all the things on the website. Then, I don't know if it's still there. We paid to have the website redone, and I'm not sure what all got put back. But if it's not there, then yeah, we'd have to chat with you. But we have all these, every one of them has a job description that we have in our Google Drive shared area for all the committees and stuff. Yeah.
I don't know, that's what I was looking to see, what committees are.
I'm going to try to get this. How do I get this out of here? Hide the panel. Oh, yeah. And minimize this. We're trying to get it. Oh, look at that. It's going. All right. I am sharing the screen. I hope everybody can see it. If you cannot see it, you can say something, and we have people here monitoring the situation, monitoring the program. So I'm just going to try to get this thing started. I'll do the first few slides to get things going. So here we are, pollinators and other arthropods for the Uwharries region. Kira, John, and Grace tonight are not familiar with the Uwharries region. It's in central North Carolina, so there's that flesh-colored area. It's about 9-10 counties. Our study area, if you can see my cursor, it's Randolph County. So this would be Greensboro, Winston-Salem. Here's Raleigh-Durham, and then Charlotte. So it's right in between. You might know Morrow Mountain State Park. That's down at the southwest end. Asheboro is at the northeast end. That's where northeast end. That's where the zoo is. To point out, there's some interesting geological history in the Uwharries, and you can go online and read about it. But it's kind of where the big land masses came together about 450 million years ago. It's some interesting stuff. So there's some different soils right there in the blue, which goes right through the Uwharries region. And that may have something to do, of course, with the plants and the geography and the biodiversity out there. Study area is where all those little pink dots on the left. So what this shows is to the northeast, National Forest. Also the land trust, there's the Three Rivers Land Trust works in this area. The Uwharrie National Forest. So that's a lot of forested area, and you can see, and there's Burkhead Wilderness, part of the Uwharrie National Forest, and then you can see a lot of farmland to the west. So where we are is at the ecotone, and the property was in fact formerly farmland. So if you go to Asheboro, there's Greensboro down to Asheboro, our area is right here. And I like to point this out, this is a distribution map of one species of fly, and it shows a very classic pattern, which is in all these urban areas, the I-40, I-85 corridor, you'll see a lot of dots on iNaturalist for distribution of animal, and you'll see this big gap, and you wonder, wow, these things don't occur here. It's just that people haven't been looking in the Uwharrie. A lot of people go to the coast to do biological work, or the sandhills, or up to the southern Alps. They just kind of have skipped over this region. That's partly why we've been wanting to take a closer look at both the birds, now some of the insects. I always want to shout out to Ruth Ann and Amy here that are the owners of the property we work, and they've done so much to get this, again, a lot of former farmland, and they work with the Wildlife Resources Commission, the Forest Service, private entities, some other folks to help get farm bill money. They've matched with private money to do all this management on what is about 240 acres to turn it back into early succession. What you see behind us here, wildlife habitat. They grew up in the area. They live in Charlotte now, but they still come back a lot for this and also to visit their mom. And so they've done a great job over the years working with all these entities to do all this habitat management. And there are other landowners in the region who are doing similar work. And one of our colleagues with the commission, John Eisenhower, has worked with a lot of them. He works to help get the management done on the site. He's going to be bringing some people out on Saturday for that, just since we're going to be there doing our trip. Then there's Kira and Grace have been helping me with the bird banding for many years now. Kira started during the pandemic in her senior year of high school. Grace started, I guess, 4 or 5 years ago, and they've been really helpful. You've probably heard some of our programs that both Kira and I have done on the birds of Uwharries. Tonight we wanted to talk about the insects and this other stuff we've been trying to get data on the last couple of years. Another colleague is Gabriella Garrison. She is a wildlife biologist with the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission. She also runs a North Carolina Pollinator Alliance group, and she has been helping to run the Southeast Bumblebee Atlas for the last few years. And so she lives in Sandhills. And so she also did some of the work with us last year. Our work was just to go out and photograph bugs on this property, just to get like a library of what species are there. Grace has done more at the zoo where they're managing native plant gardens, and asked Grace to do actual numerical surveys. So I asked Grace to talk about that. She'll come on, Kira will go first, and then Grace will come on and talk about some of her work. Grace went to NC State. She graduated in conservation biology. She did an internship here at the museum during the pandemic. It was tricky, but we did it. She did on-the-floor programming, and then she went to the zoo as an AmeriCorps person for 2 years. She's now one of their natural resource conservation biologists. She is still a temporary technician, but they're constantly trying to find a way to bring her on full-time. And she, like I said, she's been allowed to help me 2-3 days a month to do the bird work. Kira came to us as a young naturalist years ago. We ran a young naturalist club. She was about 13. We never can remember how old she was when she came, but mom just dropped her off and she's still here. She's now at NC State. She's double majoring in wildlife biology and civil engineering. She began, like I said, banding with me about 5 years ago. She does a lot of bird stuffing, and that's where she really got in. After being in the Young Naturalist Club for a year or two, she came over to the basement. So she now works for me part-time, stuffing birds or chasing birds. She also worked for Gabriella one summer for the commission to do bee work. She pinned a lot of dead bees over at NC State, and she did a lot of surveys for bees and butterflies. So I've asked her to just showcase. It's really a lot of pretty pictures. We don't have a lot to say about a lot of these things. One of the other messages, there's a lot we don't know about a lot of these insects. So the first step was just finding out what's there. And so with that, I think I'll turn it over to her. You want to talk loud, but I mean.
So as John said, we didn't really go into depth to study these things. We went out there, took a bunch of pictures to find out just a base level of what was out there. So there's going to be a lot of ooh, ah, and I don't really know what it is either. So, we're going to start with Hymenoptera. This is the bees and wasps and ants. But ants are really, really hard to identify, even down when you got them under a microscope. And they're not a big pollinator. So we focused much more on the bees and wasps. When we're looking at these small bees, they're also very hard to get down to the species. So typically the best we could do with identification was getting onto the genus. Here was a furrow bee and longhorned bee. Even these guys look pretty similar. Realistically, you can kind of see how large they are just on these small flowers. Here's just an example of a two-spotted longhorn bee. This was a county, a second county record pretty much. Again, no one's really going out here and seeing these bees. These bees are particularly, their larvae are parasitized by the cuckoo bees, which we also have out there. We have some mining bees because the land is constantly trying to be kept in this primary succession. There's a lot of burning going on every couple of years, and when it burns hot enough, there's pretty much only dirt left. and that leaves a great environment for these guys. And about 2 years ago, we had thousands and thousands of these bees creating their nesting and crawling around on the ground, which is really, really cool to see, and also really worrying to try to step over them because a lot of them like to crawl all over the ground. We have about 4 pretty common species of bumblebee that we see around here. Here's the brown-belted, and there's also the common eastern and 2-spotted bumblebees. We get some of these bumblebees while mist netting. That's what this guy is caught in right here. If they're not stuck too bad, we can often get them out, no problem. They do really like to bring everything in towards them. So unfortunately, sometimes they'll tangle themselves up pretty bad. One of our 4th most common is American bumblebees. They are not super common. They're more considered uncommon, but they have a pretty stable population in North Carolina, but have been pretty much extinct in 8 other states. And they look very similar to black and gold bumblebees, which we are pretty sure are on the property, but we can't be super sure. They both look very similar, so we need a little bit more of a bee expert to tell us. So hopefully Gabriella will be able to identify some of these photos for us. This is where the black and gold has been. So obviously it would make sense for it to be here. This is what where our study site is. I believe this pink line is like where their range stops. So we're pretty close to the edge. And this is the lemon cuckoo bee. It's a parasitic bumblebee. You can think of them as like the brown cowbird of bees. They don't want to take care of their babies, so they throw them in someone else's nest and has them take care of it. Here's a cool picture John took. It's kind of a good example of how a lot of these wasps and bees can look similar. You get kind of a similar idea with flies too, where you get not particularly in mimicry, but they do evolve very similarly and can be confusing when identifying. We have a lot of paper wasps, and they also look very similar. Here are 5 different species that we found of these guys. And here's some more wasps. So these are digger wasps. It's kind of just what it sounds like it is. They like to make their nests in loose soil. The one on the right is a katydid wasp. A lot of wasps are specialized parasitic insects pretty much. So they will evolve with one other sort of arthropod and lay their eggs in that particular arthropod. And then when the babies hatch, they have an entire feast to come upon. So this one specifically specializes in katydids. Here's some more wasp species. There are many, many wasps. Despite them being pretty distinct looking from each other, a lot of them don't have common names because they're not always considered, I believe, the most charismatic, and they're not always as studied. People don't really want to deal with wasps as much. So we have quite a few wasp species that don't have common names, but we didn't find any new species, unfortunately. That would have been cool, but not this time. Here's some spider wasps. Again, a lot of wasps are pretty significant specialists. The one on the right is an elegant tarantula hawk wasp. And the interesting thing about these guys is we don't have tarantulas in North Carolina, so we don't really know what they eat on the East Coast particularly. It's speculated that they eat trapdoor spiders because they look so much like tarantulas, but no one really knows. There's no studies done on it, so there's another mystery to uncover. Another specialist, we have a mole cricket hunter. So these guys, I assume, like to dig a little bit because mole crickets really like to be in the ground, and they'll lay their eggs in mole crickets. And here's where they're found. So not very common at all. Again, here's our big gap in data right here. And we have some more wasps. We have the velvet ant. Just a reminder, it's called ant, but it's actually a wasp. And the European hornet, which is not native, but really likes to go after and try to kill John. There was an opportunity where one of his interns got really excited about stabbing him in the leg with an EpiPen because he got stung by one of these guys. Now, something a bit prettier and what we really consider a pollinator is butterflies and moths. They're under the order Lepidoptera. I was told to, I think, make a reminder that Jeff Pippin will be talking more in depth about butterflies in July. We don't have a whole lot of fun facts about these guys, so it'll be a lot of looking at cool pictures and looking at the common names, but We've seen quite a few of these. The American snout, that's its big schnoz. They obviously don't have an actual nose, but that's part of their head right there. We have the great spangled and gulf fritillary. A lot of these orange and black butterflies can be confused for each other, but there's a lot of different species. And skippers are often overlooked. These are some of the nice flashy ones. The skippers you guys have probably seen more often is the little brown ones on the ground, but they're very important pollinators as well. They really love that clover really close to the ground. And obviously we have monarchs out there, many monarchs. They're known for their generational migration, so they don't complete an entire migration in one life cycle. They're known for going like part of the way, having babies, and the babies complete the migration, which is the really interesting part of these guys, is that their flight path is pretty much like genetically modified somehow. And then we have some eastern tiger swallowtails and pipevine swallowtails. About half of the females in these guys are black. So it's interesting how the color differences make sense there. And then I don't know if I want to try to say that, but falcate orange tip. And then there is many moths to survey. This one looks like a bird dropping, and so they called it bird dropping moth. And I found this stupid saddleback because I was walking and I hit my elbow underneath this leaf and got super stung. I'm like, what was that? And I was really angry at it, but I was like, oh, well, now I got to take a picture. But there was some spite in that picture. And, don't touch them. And we got a chance to do one night survey. We were hoping to do more. Unfortunately, some scheduling issues only allowed us to do one last year, but allowed us to find a lot of different moths. We have the Virginia creeper sphinx and the painted lichen moth. And that painted lichen moth was last seen in Randolph County in 2011. So it's been over 10 years since it was last seen. This black wedge spot is second for a naturalist in Randolph County. Again, these things I wouldn't say are particularly rare, but because not only are people not going out there and surveying in general, but this is also at night. People aren't going to be doing stuff at night and in the middle of nowhere. So we're hoping to do maybe a few more of these night surveys because we can really find stuff that people never really get to see. And we have a lot of dragonflies out there. These guys are a little harder to get photos of. They're typically flying around trying to catch their prey. Dragonflies are really well known for their hunting success. I don't remember the exact percentage, but they're one of the most successful hunters in the insect world. Here's a black-shouldered spiny leg. It was, again, similar to like the lichen moth. It hasn't been recorded for about 10 years in Randolph County. And here's another cool dragonfly. And some more dragonflies. These guys like to fly over water. A lot of bugs like to hang out over water, and so these guys kind of get a free snack. And this arrowhead spiketail was a new Randolph County record. It was found by Elena, who is Gabriella's daughter, and she likes to grab things and bring them to John. So thanks to that, we got this cool county record. And we've also surveyed, or we kind of looked at a bunch of Orthoptera, which are grasshoppers, katydids, and crickets and such. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of time to look into these guys. So we take pictures when we saw them, but we weren't actively looking very hard for these ones in general. There's a lot of spiders out there. The green link spider really likes to hang out right next to flowers and eat our pollinators, which is pretty cool. I don't particularly complain about seeing it. Here's another example, a white-banded crab spider, again, waiting by a flower. Probably not going to eat the weevil because it's too hard, but it'll wait for something a lot softer like a fly or a bee to come on by. We got a whole lot of jumping spiders. These are two examples. They're cute. They run around on the ground. They are sometimes pretty easy to see just because of how much movement they're doing. They're also very intelligent. We got a bunch of wolf spiders out there, and here's a yellow jacket next cavity. So don't step on those. Not that you'd be able to see them. And some more spiders. We have the orb weaver and argiope. Yeah, or yeah, that's why I don't try to say those out loud. These guys are known for their massively beautiful webs, especially those orb weavers. They make kind of ridiculously large webs. And we have some different wolf spider species. And here's that trapdoor spider that kind of looks like the tarantula that we assume that wasp was eating, if not because we don't have any tarantulas out here. And here's just an interesting, not particularly rare spider, but we have no idea where the eggs are laid. So a lot of these insects we just don't know anything about because there are so many insects and not exactly enough people to research an insect. I guess if everybody in the world decided to research one, then maybe we'd be better off. A lot of flies, a lot of them love to pollinate. They like to visit flowers. They look kind of gross, but at least they're pollinating our flowers. So we get some really pretty ones, and then we get a horsefly, and we don't like horseflies, but we'll deal with it. And here's a bee fly and a feather-legged fly. We have no idea what species this bee fly is. Supposedly it's one of these, and he's around here. I think this is John's record right here that he put in, but it's very unknown otherwise around the rest. That was pretty much saying the same thing. We have a lot of the flies that are going to be our bee and wasp mimics. This is just to keep predators away. We are almost smart enough to know who they are. Just as a tip, a lot of times flies, they can't put their wings back. Like you'll see wasps and bees tuck their wings behind them. Flies can't do that. They also have very small club-like antennae and like ridiculously massive eyes that often almost meet on each side. And this was a plushback fly that was originally thought to be the tropical plushback, but is kind of unofficially being named the northern plushback because it hasn't been named yet, but it's definitely not the tropical plushback because they don't occur here. So it's another variation that isn't that one, which is pretty interesting, but it's been seen all over the East Coast. So there's many of these plushback flies, and we'll wait until someone actually does the work to call it something else. Here's a bristlecefly species. Again, these guys are kind of like those ants. They're really hard to identify without a dissection or DNA test or anything. It's really hard to identify these really tiny things. These are two thick-headed flies. They parasitize on bees. So one of the reasons we think that we have black and gold out there is because of this one right here. It only parasitizes on black and gold bumblebees. So we assume it's out there, and we assume maybe some of the bumblebees we've been seeing is a black and gold bumblebee. This guy parasitizes on our more common bumblebees. I believe it's the brown-belted and common eastern that it parasitizes on. And these guys, it kind of shows a similar place of where our bumblebees, our black and gold bumblebees are found. So it kind of matches up with what we're looking for. There's a little look, if we look right here where the cursor is.
Are those been reported like on iNaturalist?
Yeah. Yeah, this is a map of iNaturalist. So I assume, people might also just be seeing them normally, but we use iNaturalist as just a general place of where people have been seeing them. It's one of the biggest databases for us to easily access. And here's a golden back snipefly, like that spider. We have no idea where it lays its eggs. We just know very little about many of these insects that we see. We're gonna just go through a few true bugs. These are hemipterans. They are well known for this little cross they have on their back. They can fold their wings in a way that often gives off a cross. They also, I believe almost all of them have piercing mouth-sucking parts, and this guy is eating a bumblebee of some kind. And it's doing that they have pretty long, ridiculously long little piercing mouth parts. So we have quite a few leaf-footed bugs. We see about 5 species. They're often confused with assassin bugs, but they're different. They do look a little similar, but they are different genus. Here's some other random hemipterans. They're kind of fun to look at. We have some orange assassin bugs, and this one, another type of insect species that doesn't have a common name. It's just a shiny, pretty bug. And this particular stink bug, John found, it has no common name, and it's very, very uncommon in iNaturalist. So I have no idea. Again, there's just so much we don't know. And we apparently capture all these guys in our mist nets. Poor guys. Here's how uncommon it is. We could probably count this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7. That would be the 8th in North Carolina. There's a lot and lots of beetles out there. Caloptera is the largest insect order. So that's the most bugs that, like, I want to say it's like 40% of insects are calopteran. Here's some flower scarab beetles. A lot of beetles are visiting our flowers and carrying pollen around as clumsily as they fly. They somehow manage. Here's a dogbane leaf beetle. The blue one, we weren't able to specifically identify as it, but we assume it's just a different life stage of this same one. And this particular beetle is either Ibidente or ragweed leaf beetle. It's very uncommon to be either. I think one is like 7 and one is 11. In North Carolina, there's really not that many sightings of them. So that's a little interesting beetle to see. They're very tiny. And here's a longhorned beetle species, a new county record. It kind of makes sense to be seeing all these new beetles because there are so many beetles to see. And weevils count too. They're pretty cute. They look kind of silly. We took pictures when we saw them because why not? There is a ridiculous amount of these all over the place. I don't know what species they are, but there's many, many, many of them. Here's some more plant hoppers. They jump around. We got another long schnoz. I think their head actually goes all the way down here. Like goes all the way under them. It's a little crazy. And that's kind of the end of a general thing of what we saw. I believe we'll switch over to Grace. Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can. I just have to. Oh wait, there should be a big button that says stop sharing.
No, you can do your own share.
I think I'm still.
Okay.
Okay.
I think it's in the middle.
Okay.
Wait.
I think you're good to go, Grace, if you can share, unless is the
Okay.
screen still sharing or are you good?
I can just go ahead and share my screen and see what happens.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Let's see here. Okay.
Got that look on her face. It's starting.
There you go.
There you go. That's what
All
they're-
right. Is it in?
Yeah, and you can just.
Can we make hers bigger than that? Or these two?
Is it in presenter mode?
Yeah, but fine. You just enlarge it and go ahead and put it in the bottom right or wherever you do it to start
There we
the show.
Okay.
There you
So
go.
can everybody see the
Yeah.
slide presentation? Okay. Can everybody hear me too?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. All right. So hello everybody. My name is Grace. I'm the Regional Conservation Coordinator at the North Carolina Zoo, and I'll be talking about the pollinator research project that we've been doing at the zoo. I'll also give a nod and a mention that we, not too long ago, just received the status of being a botanical garden, which we're, I think, only one of 5 zoos to have that credibility. So pretty cool.
Right about that. I'm trying to amplify you here.
Oh,
Unless we can plug the speakers into the computer.
Not a sec, there is. I saw a cable. There's a little cable there.
Oh, the tiny one.
Yeah. That one could plug in.
Do you have an audio jack? Oh, is your computer not on?
If this works. We're gonna see if this.
Try to talk now.
okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, wait. Okay, wait, try again.
Okay. So
Well, wait,
everybody in the whole audience can hear me now.
too much. Wait.
Hang on.
Don't laugh. Laugh, please.
Everyone in the county can.
It's gonna be just a turn down. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Maybe halfway.
God.
New room, new problems.
You can talk now.
Oh yeah, try reciting the alphabet or something.
A, B, C, D.
Okay, now talk. Oh wait, no, now we can't hear her.
She can't.
We're silent. She's laughing silently.
Laughing silently. Wow.
Yeah. That's like the lowest it can go.
Let's have her just do the alphabet.
Talk again.
Hello, my name is Grace. Is this too loud?
Wait, is that the right dial?
It's those two. And then-
Sorry, try again. It's like right.
Hello. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's much better. We're getting better.
Can you talk again? I tried to turn it up just like minimally.
I'm gonna see if this,
Okay, hello. Can you hear me now? Is this better?
Yeah.
Good? Are we good?
Oh my gosh, I turned it like a million. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. I think that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we're good. Okay, so everybody can hear me now.
Yes.
Okay, sweet. I will start back from the beginning. So hello, everybody. My name is Grace. I am the Regional Conservation Coordinator at the North Carolina Zoo, and I'm going to talk about the pollinator conservation work that we've been doing at the zoo, the project I've been working on. I'll also give a nod and say that we, not too long ago, just got the credibility of being a zoo and botanical garden, which were one of, I think, about five AZA organizations to have that credibility. So have to give a nod to that. All right, so first I'm just going to go through briefly, and this will be mostly photo focused and show some of the really beautiful gardens that our horticulture staff has worked on over the years. So here's an example of a few of our gardens. We have about 10 pollinator stations that are dedicated to planting native plants, a few introduced species of plants as well, but for the purpose of attracting local pollinators to these gardens. Um, and they range from different sizes. So some of these are roughly an area of about 200,000 centimeters squared to up to 600,000. So there's a little bit of variation in the size of each of these gardens, as well as the density and diversity of pollinator plants that are in them. We also try to promote this work that we do to our zoo guests. And so you can see on here, we've got a few of our pollinator station graphics to talk to or to show guests why we have these gardens here, what we're doing, how we're trying to help our local pollinators, and information on how they can also contribute and help as well at home. This is one of our largest pollinator gardens. This is the Solar Point Garden, which hopefully on Saturday, if you are able to attend, you'll get to see this garden in person. It's one of the largest gardens we have on our zoo property, and it was established in 2018. It is also designated as a monarch way station. So this garden has a lot of milkweed in it, as well as a wide variety of different plants that grow in there. And this one too, so far, can't completely confirm, but so far I've seen almost about every pollinator that I'm trying to target in this garden. That includes the clearwing hummingbird moths and hummingbirds themselves I have seen in this garden pollinating. So this is probably one of my favorite gardens. And here's some examples of some of the host plants. These host plants are planted for pollinators to basically use as a nursery as well as a food resource and shelter. So you can see in the left, we have a milkweed plant, and you can see very tiny, there's a little monarch butterfly egg there. So we've been seeing a lot of those and a lot of caterpillars here recently growing and developing, which is exciting to see. We also have butterfly weed, eastern blue star, fennel, red columbine, and goldenrod. So a nice, good diversity of different host plants. And we also possess a lot of different wildflowers and aromatic herbs for pollination purposes. So a lot of our butterflies love the anise hyssop as well as bumblebees. We see tons of diversity on our mountain mint. I'd say the mountain mint come like July and August is practically humming and vibrating because there's just so much on it. A lot of the wasp species in particular really enjoy the mountain mint as well. So yeah, great diversity and variety of flowers that are planted here. And our horticulture staff are very strategic in the plants that they're putting in there and kind of how they're arranging them. But in the past, there really hasn't been any quantitative data to show just how much their work is benefiting the local pollinators, or even seeing which types of pollinators we are supporting. And so then that leads into the research project that myself and my supervisor started last year. So the goal of the research project at the zoo is to understand the diversity and abundance of pollinators supported within the zoo gardens. So our objectives were to observe the plant-pollinator interaction specifically, identify the plants with the highest pollinator diversity, and indicate any potential environmental factors or landscape factors. A lot of our gardens are next to the walkways where guests walk, or they're next to some of the parking lots and roadsides, whereas other ones are next to a lot of wooded areas or are mostly shaded. And so those are some environmental factors and landscape things that we want to look into and see, does that have any effect on the pollinators that we're seeing? So last spring and summer, we started a pilot project on this just to get an idea of what might be out there. So we monitored 6 of the gardens in the zoo. This was done once a week at 10-minute intervals. And again, just looking at the pollinator plant interactions, seeing who's out there, how many are there, and which plants are they going towards. This was a huge learning curve for myself. I was new to both plant ID and pollinator ID. And so a lot of the observations that we made, we took a lot of close-up pictures. You can see in the photograph we were using butterfly nets. So this was a very net-intensive project, just trying to kind of get us started as well, similar to like what Kira was talking about with their project, just trying to figure out what's out there and get comfortable and used to seeing the different insects that could be there. And to help me, so Kira was talking about all the different types of insects. Because of the expanse of the gardens at the zoo, I unfortunately cannot do every insect, but this is kind of a good showing of the target pollinators for my project. So you can see here, this is a lot, but this is some of the target pollinators that are all color-coded out by their families. And this is actually the field guide I use out in the field if I need to double check on identifying anything. So as an example, you can see in red, those are our leafcutter species. You can also, you can also see in like lavender, that is family Apidae. So those are our bumbles, our honeybees, and carpenter bees. And then in blue, light blue, you can see all the butterfly species that we're also looking for in the zoo gardens. So now we'll come to some of the preliminary results that we found out of the study last year. And this is just looking at the abundance data that we captured in the Solar Point Garden. And on the y-axis, you can see this is the number of individuals total per family, and then x-axis shows you the months in which we conducted observations. Clearly, family Apidae, which was honeybee, carpenter, and bumblebee, kind of rose out above everything else. Saw those in abundance, not just in Solar Point, but in almost every garden. But if we zoom in, we can actually see the abundance across the different family groups. So what was interesting that I noticed in this data was in purple, you can see an exponential trend from March to about starting July of butterfly species, which I thought was cool. Another interesting note is the forest green. You can see that those are the leafcutter bees, so they started really becoming abundant in the garden around June. And then also in the kind of cobalt blue color, you can see sweat bees made quite an appearance in June. And then in July and in June, our thread-waisted wasps made an appearance in the gray bars as well. So it was interesting to be able to parcel out and look at just in general abundance as we went through the summer months of observation. And of course, I took several pictures. These are some of the highlight pictures from last year's data collection. So we've got a beautiful Great Spangled Fritillary that I think was captured at Solar Point. So I had to get a picture of that one. A thread-waisted wasp species that we found on mountain mint, an Ailanthus webworm moth on Anis hyssop, which are beautiful to see. Also caught this cool banded longhorn beetle on purple coneflower. I think this is a juniper hair streak. There are like, I think two different species of hair streaks that are kind of this green color. But that was a really exciting find. That was on mountain mint. And then one that I believe was also a leaf cutter bee on mountain mint as well. And then we have a few more pictures. Um, I also too will need to ask an expert. I don't know, Kira or John, if you guys know if you can confirm this bumblebee species in the top corner. But I knew it was a bumblebee on sage, so that was a cool find.
Send me
Um,
that photo.
say that again.
Send me the photo.
Oh, yes. I will send you photos. I think I have more photos of that particular bee at different angles, so I'll have to look through and find that one. But it was definitely unique and an interesting bee to see. We'll also see a lot of metallic green sweat bees. Those are always a cool find, and that one is on a Coreopsis. We also have pipevine swallowtail butterflies on Stokes aster. A really cool solid black leafcutter bee on Stokes aster as well. I believe that picture was taken in the Solar Point Garden. A beautiful American lady that I was able to capture and take some nice photos of in a jar. And then finally, a hummingbird clearwing moth that was right about to leave a butterfly bush. Don't ask me how I actually got a halfway decent photo of a hummingbird clearing moth. I think I was snapping like constantly on my trigger on my camera just to hope that I could get a decent picture. And then I lucked out and got this halfway decent photo. So I still surprise myself every time I see that photo.
Here. Yeah.
All right. So, at this point, that was all of the information that we gained last year at the zoo. So, now we'll kind of go into the next steps for this year. So yeah, for this year, we are actively starting our data collection again. So this started in the spring of this year. We started in around April, and we'll continue the surveys through until about October. since that's when things are still in bloom, and I want to cover as much data collection as possible so that we get coverage of everything. And hopefully, the goal for this project is that the zoo can use this information not just in the conservation department, but through horticulture, through our education department, and beyond. I want this information to, once we have captured it and are able to present it, that this information can be useful for all of our zoo staff, our guests who come to the zoo and want to learn, about these gardens, and for just everybody in general. I want this information to be public access so that we can have kind of a guide as to the types of plants we're cultivating in our gardens and which types of pollinators they are most useful for. So that's the goal for the project this year. We also will be having a plant sale again. We just had our plant sale at the zoo in May around Mother's Day, but we're already making plans for next year. I recently got a message from a horticulture staff person, and they were already wanting to plan to sell more native plants for 2027. So be on the lookout for that. Next year in May, the zoo will be hosting another plant sale and will hopefully have a lot more native plants for people to purchase. And another goal too that I think I know I have, and I think horticulture staff have as well, because they seem really excited about it, is to add in additional beds. Our zoo, if you've not been or haven't been in a while, the North Carolina Zoo is massive. It's a large landscape, and we have a few pollinator gardens scattered about, but I think we all collectively would like to see more. And there's a lot of grass spaces that could easily be turned into pollinator beds. And so that's something that I think a lot of us are looking forward to in the future. And with that, that's about all I have. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. I hope somebody recognizes this butterfly and recognizes the joke. If you don't, this is a question mark butterfly. So,
All right. Oh, great. Thanks, Grace.
of course.
Yeah, so if people have questions, if they have it for you, we'll repeat it for you. And if you're online and you have a question, we have somebody watching. I gotta step over this cable. I know I'm gonna hurt myself. Oh, I'm old. I'm too old for this. Does this thing work? Oh no, we got it plugged in, so this won't work. I can't do 2 for 1. That's all right.
We can hear you.
Yeah, they can hear me here. We'll leave you on the speaker. We got it worked. We got that speaker volume worked out. So, right. I know. I'm gonna hurt myself. You just know it. Don't move. Don't move. I can't move. I'm stuck. I'll be sleeping here tonight. Anybody have any questions? Grace, did you once tell me y'all were trying to export your idea into town, into Ashboro?
Yeah, it sort of. We have a few educational pollinator stations that one of our after school program coordinators has been working on for a number of years. She has been putting these in like Boys and Girls Club facilities to promote the kids to get involved with learning about pollinators, learning about taking care of plants. So that has been a really cool project too that we have been working with. This year, we actually have a pollinator intern who's working with me and is working with the after school coordinator. And so it's nice to do that kind of cross collaboration between education and research and get kids involved, getting kids involved in learning about bees and butterflies, especially I think desensitizing them to bees is a really important part. So that it's not part of my project, but it is something that the North Carolina Zoo has been doing.
Excellent, excellent. All right, who first?
So iNaturalist is what you submit your data to, or your pictures to. So, should people be going out there on their walks and taking pictures of insects that they see, submitting them and trying to grow that database?
The question is about that we're using iNaturalist and, what could other people participate? Yeah. So iNaturalist is a community participation thing. You create an account like everything and a password. The idea behind iNaturalist started just to get people outside. That's really how it started. But like so many things in the world, it took off and it became more than what they thought it was going to be. Now you have all these people using it as a science thing. They didn't intend it to be that. They just wanted to get people outside and that you could use this app to identify things and then go learn more about them. But now it's just really, really, we're using it for a lot more. So we do encourage people, if you're up for it. A lot of people would just use their phone. There's a phone app. I am not a phone app, at least not for iNaturalist. I prefer a camera and the web interface. It's a little more powerful. I like to download my photos. I edit them, crop them, make them a little better, put them in. When you do it, if you're going to use iNaturalist, if you haven't done it, I encourage you to watch the training video. There's a lot of people get started without realizing the things you want to do to make it a better experience for you and the people involved. But the main thing is you can, what's that? No, so that's the thing. What you do, what it'll tell you if you first go on and give you an example. I'm on the web, you upload this photo. The app does the same thing. If you're in the app, it'll put it in the right spot. But on the web, you copy it over, and then it knows your date because it comes off your camera. If you have GPS, it knows where you were. You don't always want people to know where you were. That's the thing. So some people will draw. You can manipulate the point on the map. You can highlight the location and draw big circles. So or you can move the center a little bit because there's a safety issue and there's science. So you gotta compromise. Like in the case of ours, we're on private property. It's known private property, so we put them on there. It wouldn't stop somebody from trespassing, but it is fenced in and all. It's a little harder to do. But some people are cautious about how they map their stuff. But the other thing that you do is I'm on the web, you put your cursor in the spot that says species. If you don't put that in, it'll leave it as unknown and then it won't give you an answer and then nobody will look at it because people ignore the unknowns. If you put your cursor in the spot, it uses a type of artificial intelligence. It's matching pixels, millions of photographs, and it's matching the pixel and it'll come back. It's not always accurate, but it's close. But the idea is you can also choose the word view, which is a way to explore. And when you open that up to the species, it'll then tell you a little bit about it or the taxonomy, or you can go to similar species and go, oh, wow, there's 3 of these things that look alike. But if you upload it that way, someone will come along and either give you a thumbs up, like, yeah, that's right, or they'll say, no, it's this one, and you'll get feedback. So on your account, you'll get an email message saying somebody has commented or identified or corrected your account. It's a little bit much at first, but after a while, you kind of get the workflow going, and it's a lot of fun. So, a lot of this stuff, what Kara pointed out, like, we don't know if that thing is a bidentate or a ragweed leaf beetle. There are only 5 reports of the ragweed in North Carolina and 10 of the bidentate, and they're very similar. So we're going to have to go, and we might have to just put the genus and let somebody else tell us which one it is. And that's okay. Better just put genus level, let somebody else tell you what the species is. But we learned a lot ourselves by putting all this stuff in and getting the feedback of what these things, that stink bug, it came right up. I was taking one of our nets down and there was a stink bug. I said, no, I never seen it, took a photo. When I put it in, it came right, and it said, there's no other bug that looks like this. So it was this stink bug. They don't give it a common name, but you could see it was black and orange, pretty dramatic, but and not but a few records for North Carolina. It's found elsewhere, but not here, or not that we know it. It might be all over. Nobody's looking. I mean, for all I know. That did happen one year. I found this little clearwing moth that was in my yard, and when I put it on iNaturalist, it was the first Wake County record. It was the fourth record for North Carolina. And it was 2 years before the pandemic. A few years later, in the middle of the pandemic, I saw it again. I thought, I'll take a photo. I'm going to upload it and see what's going on. Now, there was 100 or more. Everybody was home with nothing to do. And they all went out and took photos of insects in their yard and created an iNaturalist account. And this moth wasn't rare at all. It was everywhere. But nobody had, a Congress came up to me one day. I gave it in a talk. Goes, I see that thing all the time. I didn't know. Like, yeah, people, sometimes we don't know because somebody hasn't reported it, because there wasn't really a good way to report insects before. That's the one great thing about iNaturalist. There's also ncbiodiversity.com website. That nonprofit has been started by a lot of former biologists in the state. So Harry LeGrand and Steve Hall and other people that are active are from state parks. They put together this program and they're compiling all this stuff to try to just get it for North Carolina. That map of the lichen moth that we showed, that came from there, putting them all by county. So you can at least, and they're going into great detail. That's how I learned about the one dragonfly. I was like, we haven't had a report in 10 years of that dragonfly. It's on the ncbiodiversity.com website. You can create an account there. You can upload photos there. So you have a couple of options.
I have a couple questions for Grace.
Okay.
So the first one is, are you considering a prairie garden at the zoo?
Grace, a question online is, are you considering a prairie garden at the zoo? Anyone considering like a prairie garden?
That's a good question. So I should have mentioned this too, and I did not. The zoo has several nature preserves that we protect land, and we can't do anything as expansive, I don't think, as like the Grisham property that is really massively being reconverted into a Piedmont prairie. But we are trying to do some work to restore some just naturally occurring wildflowers in some of our forested areas on our nature preserves. So like one example is on our Purgatory nature preserve area. We're trying to revive I'm probably going to butcher the name, but the Schweinitzer's sunflower. And so we're trying to promote that to naturally occur again. We also have another preserve that is not open to the public yet, but it's a longleaf pine preserve, and we were hoping to do some pollinator surveys there either this summer or maybe next summer to look at some naturally occurring flowering plants out there and see if we have any pollinators that might be out there. So, yeah, we've thought about it.
All right.
I think Grace and Pierre can both try to answer this one. For the places that you're surveying, do you have an idea about the percentage of the pollinators that are native species versus non-native?
A question about the percentage of pollinators. So for each site that we've been looking, what's native and what's non-native? Do you have a thought about your gardens, and then we'll chime in for ours?
Okay. Native and non-native plants, or native and non-native?
Pollinators, the insects.
Okay. That's a good question. That is a good question. I think most of ours are native. I'm not really looking so when I showed that guide, those I'm trying to focus on as like the target pollinators. I would love to do everything, but I don't have enough manpower to do that to even determine. For the most part, I'm trying to focus on native. Um, I mean, of course, honeybee is introduced. Yes, I'm
Right,
still counting that one in my surveys. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that. We're not trying to target non-native. We're trying to focus on native.
right. Um, I'll just say from my time out there watching and chime in if you want. There are two ways to look at it. One is individuals and one is species. So there are a lot of honeybees out and about. They're everywhere. And so there are honeybees on our site. So from a from like a numerical perspective, we've not counted them, but sometimes I would look around at a patch of there was this patch of butterfly weed and I was looking at some flies and things and I noticed there were about 20 honeybees probably in a 15-foot circle. And there's a lot of honeybee. So from that standpoint, there's a lot. But as far as species, I don't I don't see many non-natives. Did you pay any attention to? Uh,
Pollinators, a lot of our pollinators are native, but like a lot of our other insects, like a lot of wasps tend to be non-native.
neither one of us, Kira and I, we don't really see many non-natives. When you go on iNaturalist, it will tell you if it'll have a big I if it's introduced. So when we post it, when we haven't uploaded all our data yet, but when we do, it'll tell us when we're there. But when I'm thinking through all the photos I've taken out there now, thousands and thousands, um, I don't know, probably less than 5% would be non-native, I would say. Not very many, not very many.
We have one more question, which is about monarchs. And so there's some chat about how people in their gardens have had monarchs lay eggs and then the eggs and the butterflies disappear. They're wondering if that's about the heat or what might be other reasons that monarchs are disappearing.
That they're cycling or
Disappearing.
they're what? Oh,
Yes, yes. Or last summer also, I think.
about monarchs? Well, so with monarch, you know, the cycle is, as Kira mentioned, the first brood that comes back is sort of like they're like the grandchildren of the ones that left the previous fall. And then they lay eggs. We get more in September. They will lay more eggs, you know. And now we're talking about the great grandchildren, the ones that will go back. Where you had caterpillars in April this year.
Yeah, I had in my front yard, I had a number of caterpillars and monarchs. Then they kind of disappeared, and then I saw one 2 days ago at my common milkweed.
All right.
You know, we don't see them much during the summer. I'll see them kind of flutter.
Right.
But then you're right. You can almost mark the calendar. Beginning of September is when you really start seeing them.
Again, so Louise here had some in April. I've never heard of that, but the climate's changing and they're coming back earlier. And she had, I mean, I couldn't believe I saw the photos. But then there's a law because those caterpillars will grow up if they make it. They will hatch. They will continue migrating further north. So that's where the law usually happens in the summer. We still get some lingering, but there's a law. And then they're going to raise another brood and then they're going to start their way back. But they also are going to lay more eggs. I think there's actually like probably 2 broods that end up migrating or because there's parts of that cycle we're still teasing apart, and of course it's changing with the environment and climate, but there is a law, but I think it's a natural law. The other thing that can happen, I'll just tell you that, you know, those paper wasps are brutal predators of caterpillars. That's what they do. So in an urban environment, that's not natural. You can put all the native stuff you want, but you've got a house with soffits, you've got overhang, you got buckets you forgot about, you got cute little ornaments, and those wasps are nesting under every little thing. So you're actually creating wasp habitat. And I'm not going to lie, I go out and knock them all down. Or if they get away from me, I go out with spray at night and I spray them at night because they will just devastate your caterpillars that you're trying to raise. And so it's a little unfair to the caterpillar because you're just like a golden corral for the paper wasp. I mean, it's a smorgasbord, and you're creating all this habitat for paper wasp, and they are just so efficient of predators. So I will let a few hang on, a few paper wasps, but when they get out of control, and sometimes they do, I take them out. Then you have to manage your paper wasp.
I wanted to go back a minute to the non-natives.
Uh-huh.
I have a big problem at my longleaf farm with those gigantic Chinese praying mantis.
Chinese praying mantis, yeah.
And they have those gray brown kind of their cocoons.
Oh yeah,
All over the place.
yeah,
And
right,
I have a ton of them.
yeah.
And they're a big predator
Of other things. Louise is mentioning she's got these the Chinese praying mantis. That's not native, and she has some longleaf pine down east, about 75 acres, right?
well, about 25 of it is.
25. But the other habitat nearby, I mean, it's growing these praying mantis. They eat the natives, but they really can get out of control. Interestingly enough, we don't see it. I didn't see a lot of praying mantis on our, yeah. So we're not seeing those at our site, but it's interesting. Exactly, And partly why we do these little studies in different sites, because all these microsites can vary, and it's good to get that kind of information. Yeah. All right. Is there anything else? We have some cake and other stuff to eat here. I know. Yeah, there's one.
But these are called sweat bees.
They lick your sweat. They don't land on you. They like the salt.
Question about why sweat bees are called a sweat bee. They will lick the salt right off your skin.
Yeah, I think it's because they kind of like hoverflies the way that
They do. They will. Even the other wasps will get in if they're sweating. They'll go for the salt right in. Well, I guess if that's it, just a reminder, in July, Jeff Pippin will come to talk about butterflies. I did ask him to maybe do a butterfly walk. He hasn't gotten back, but hopefully he will, like do something at the Arboretum the Arboretum or the Art Museum. There's always some good butterflies. And then and just an early reminder, we'll have our slideshow with the potluck stuff in August. We'll still run that, so be prepared. Be getting your recipes ready and slides ready. Get your slides. Any slide is fair game. We like to show them all. So with that,
If anybody's interested in volunteering for the tabling event, here's a QR code.
so with that, thanks, Grace. I'll see you.
Yeah, I was glad to be here. Thank you guys.
I'll see you Saturday, I guess.
All right, sounds good.
All right, see ya. Good night, everyone.
There.